today's Pet Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Roberta Westbrook. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Campus for All Animals, the Houston SPCA. So we have an exciting show for you today with hopefully some really important information for you. It's the holidays, it's Christmas time, and we are experiencing drops in temperature. We're going to receive a cold front, and it's going to begin to get worse starting today through the weekend. So I'm going to hopefully give you some helpful tips to help keep your pet safe and any pets that you see in need in your community. So think of any questions that you have, put those in the chat. In the meantime, please meet Pogo, our pet of the week. Pogo is about shepherd mix. Pogo came to us through the ambulance service as an injured stray dog. We don't know much about his family. We just know he came in with a serious injury to his rear limb that was irreparable, not able to be repaired. And so Pogo had a surgery to remove the leg. He had an amputation, but you would never know it. He is so active. He is doing great. You know, he may as well have 6 legs because he's chasing balls and jumping all over the place. He would make a wonderful family pet, especially if you have kids that are active. He's going to be a great addition to your family. So come on down to our adoption center and visit with Pogo and all of the other dogs, cats, puppies, and kittens that we have available. We've got rabbits as well. And there's no appointment necessary. We are here from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. today and tomorrow. So please come on down. Now let's get started talking about the freeze and how we can protect your pets. We'll get started.
All right, so what does this cold front actually mean for our pets?
Yeah, so the cold front for our pets means that we have to be extra careful. Whenever there are extreme temperatures, whether hot or cold, we're going to need to take extra precaution to keep our pets safe. You may be used to going out on long walks. Maybe you walk for 30 minutes or an hour, but in this cold weather, you're not going to want to do that. You may not want to do it, but certainly your pets are not going to be used to that cold drop in the temperature. So you want to make sure that you take walks with your dog a little bit shorter than normal. You may consider putting maybe a sweater on your dog. So some people may be wondering, do I need to put a sweater or a jacket on my dog when it's cold? So we have some examples here, some cute ones like this one, a little snow bunny for your dog, or you can get some Christmas themed sweaters, and they make them in all sizes. These are a good idea if you have a dog that's going to be outside and your dog particularly has a short hair coat, maybe a very thin, short hair coat, Chihuahuas, any other small breed dogs, thin dogs, Italian Greyhounds, Whippets, you know, the dogs that don't have a lot of body fat and are very thin. These are going to be dogs that are at a greater risk for low body temperature, hypothermia. Puppies are also at risk, and older animals are also at risk. And that's because really small puppies and older animals oftentimes have a little bit more trouble regulating their body temperature. So these might be dogs that you're going to want to put a sweater on when they're going outside. You know, in addition to a sweater, maybe some booties on their feet will also help because you don't want them to get frostbite on their toes or on their paw pads. So make your walks a little bit shorter. Consider if you have one of those breeds that is very small, thin, short hair, that you put a sweater on your dog, and then maybe consider some booties to protect their feet as well.
And then at what temperature should we bring our pets in?
You know, I think pets should stay indoors when it's extreme cold, or especially when the temperature is outside the norm. This weekend, we're going to have below freezing temperatures. They're going to be in the teens and even lower. So these are definitely temperatures that you're going to want to bring your pets indoors. If you cannot bring your pets indoors in your apartment, in your home, consider bringing your pet into a garage maybe, some place that's going to be secure, some place that's going to be isolated so that they're not exposed to the elements. And you want to make sure that they are not out in the inclement weather. Remember, this year was the year that the Safe Outdoor Dogs Act was implemented. What the Safe Outdoor Dogs Act says is that you need to provide adequate food, water, and shelter for your pet, especially if they are outside during freezing temperatures. It's illegal to leave your pet outside during freezing temperatures without adequate shelter. So please make sure that you're doing that. You know, you may be wondering, what is adequate shelter? Adequate shelter is a 3-sided structure, solid structure with a solid roof and a solid floor. So it needs to be 3-sided with a roof and a floor. Those barriers should be solid so that wind cannot get through. Obviously, there will be an entry. Ways that you can make this structure comfortable for your pet or for an outdoor animal is you can cover the bottom with either hay or blankets. And you can even cover the entrance with maybe a tarp or some type of plastic to try to prevent the wind from getting through. So make sure that, again, 3 solid sides, solid top, solid floor. Cover the floor with either blankets or hay, and consider even covering the entrance if you have an outdoor dog. But if the best thing to do is going to bring them inside.
And then if left outside without adequate shelter, how long can an animal be left there without it becoming life-threatening?
Yeah, it can become life-threatening pretty quickly. It's difficult to know exactly how long that can take, but it certainly can take a very short period of time. And some of the variables that are going to determine how life-threatening it becomes and how soon is going to be obviously, the type of dog, how much hair coat they have, their body fat, whether or not they're healthy to begin with, whether they're old or young. All of these inherent traits about the animal may affect how well they're able to handle these cold temperatures. So we don't want to risk it. We don't want to say, we don't want to push that limit. So very short walks, short periods of time. Don't let them outside for hours, for example.
And then what are the signs of hypothermia if it's something to look out for this weekend?
Yeah, so signs of hypothermia. If you're noticing that, maybe you come upon a neighborhood pet or a lost pet that's been outside in this cold weather and you're noticing some abnormal behavior, the pet may be experiencing hypothermia, which is a low body temperature. The low body temperature is usually between 90 degrees and 99 degrees. That's a lower body temperature than normal. And so you might notice that the pet first starts to shiver. What they're trying to do is they're trying to create their own body heat by shivering. Then, if they're not able to create enough body heat, sometimes the cold weather will cause them to become mentally dull, depressed, and lethargic. Sometimes they start to pant a lot because they're getting a little bit stressed. And so these things, and internally, things that you might not see are their heart rate can start to speed up from the stress. But then when it gets extreme, the heart rate begins to slow down. And sometimes unconsciousness can occur. So it can be a gradual process, but slowly they get duller and more dull, and it could be life-threatening.
And then let's say we do find one, our immediate, want is for them to get warm super fast. Can that be dangerous too? Is there like a slow way to warm their bodies up?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to consider, let me do everything I can to get the body temperature up really quickly. But you do want to have a slow warming process so that the body doesn't go into shock. So first thing is just to bring the pet indoors outside of the inclement weather, outside of those extreme temperatures. Using something like just a warm blanket. You can put a blanket in a dryer and get it a little bit warm. Then you can put that over the pet. You can certainly position the pet in a nice, comfortable bed, maybe in front of a heater or a fire, but they need to be able to get away. You don't want to position them in front of a heater or a fire and not have them be able to move away from it when it becomes too hot. Remember, if they're in front of the fire or the heater and they're not able to move, the heat is going to be hitting only one portion of their body for an extended period of time. And that can cause secondary issues like burns. So you want to make sure that they can get up, they can walk around, they can move, or that you move them if you're putting them in front of a heater or a fireplace.
And, you briefly mentioned, the short hair dogs. What about, huskies? We know they love the coat, but can they still be affected when it gets a certain temperature?
That's such a great question. We oftentimes see lots of videos of huskies outside in the snow.
They don't want to come in.
They don't want to come in. And sure, that can happen, and they can really enjoy the cold weather for short periods of time. But if they are not acclimated to it, long periods of time, it could become dangerous for them, particularly in the way of frostbite on the toes and the paw pads. So making sure that you bring them inside, give their body time to warm up so that they don't experience frostbite would be the best thing. Now, huskies do have double coats. So they have an undercoat, and then they have a tougher, more coarse outer coat, like guard hairs that help to protect them during the winter. But you still want to make sure that they have adequate shelter and that they can get away from the cold. Short periods of time when they're playing and romping around in the snow or the cold weather is fine, but extended periods could still put them at risk for hypothermia and or frostbite.
And apart from frostbite on our paws, sometimes the dog paws get cracked with this in cold. How can we care for them at home for those paws, or what can we do to help prevent them?
Absolutely. We got to do our skin care for our dogs. So sometimes those paw pads get dry and cracked. You can use products that you may have around your home already, like coconut oil, or you can use even products like petroleum jelly or Vaseline. But you can buy commercial products from your local pet store that are made for the paw pads, that are little balms that you can rub on the paw pads that will keep them safe, that may be made from cocoa butter or oatmeal based. And so those might be good products that you might want to pick up before this freeze happens.
And if my dog, is really small, 20-pound pet that's super cold all the time, doesn't want to go outside to potty, what can we do to help them? Yes. Or can we make, pee pads inside the house? They're not wanting to go outside at all.
That's a great question. Yeah, it's going to be cold. Who's going to want to go outside? If it's outside, what you might be able to do is make the area right outside your home comfortable for your pet to walk on. They may not want to walk on the very cold ground. So you can even put a mat out so that they can kind of go out on the mat first to kind of get them outside. You could try to use pee pads in the home. If they're not used to a pee pad, it may be a little bit of a learning curve for them to be able to use that. But at your local pet store, you can also get sort of these little patches of grass that look like grass, smell like grass. They're really good for training, and it attracts your pet to that little square of grass, and they may be able to eliminate inside your home. But making those walks very quick, maybe carrying your puppy, your small little dog outside, placing them on the grass, letting them urinate and or defecate, and then carrying them back in might be the way to go if they're sort of refusing to come out on a leash.
And for cats that are unsocialized, that are outside, they're not indoor pets usually, what precautions can we offer them?
Yes, there are a lot of homeless cats that are out on the street, and if it is in your heart to do so, we certainly advise you to help those animals by creating nice, comfortable areas where they can get away from the cold. Sometimes that means taking a large plastic bin that you can get from your local store and cutting a hole in the side of it. And you can line the bottom of that plastic bin with blankets. You can put food in there. You can put water in there. And this will be a way that cats in the community can get into those bins and protect themselves from the cold. And placing those strategically, maybe if there's some cats in your neighborhood, putting one on your doorstep may be able to save their lives.
And is it safe to house, the stray pets in our garage?
It's very, it's pros and cons. So if the cat will come into your garage and it's a safe environment for them, by all means, you can allow them to come into your garage and provide, again, some blankets, a nice kind of cubby hole, a bed for them to live. Sometimes they're a little bit nervous and they may be wary of people, and so they may not want to come into your garage, and they may be very scared. I also would caution you about handling feral cats too much. If they're not used to people, you certainly don't want to get injured. But if you can keep your distance while still providing some food, water, and shelter for them, that would be a great thing to consider.
And should we be thinking about feeding our pets a little bit more during this cold time? Are they burning more energy, or is that more if they're just outside?
Yes, during the winter time, pets are going to burn more energy to stay warm. Their body's metabolism is going to increase, which means their appetite is going to increase, which also means it's a great idea if you could feed them a little bit more. So again, if you have a pet that's going to be outside or has been exposed to cold, you may want to feed them more. This is particularly important for farm animals because they're living outside all the time. You got horses and goats and cattle, and chickens, and so those animals need support as well. They definitely need more food. Please put more hay out for the horses so that they can maintain that adequate metabolism to keep themselves warm.
Great point. We don't just have dogs and cats here in Houston. So then they also need adequate shelter as well, I'm assuming.
Yes, absolutely. The farm animals also need a 3-sided structure that's going to protect themselves from those freezing temperatures. You may also consider for horses putting a blanket over them. That can help. They make horse blankets that you can put on them, very much like a sweater that you have for your dog or cat. You can get those for horses, and that would be a great thing to consider. Also for your farm animals, you want to make sure that they have adequate water and that the water is not frozen. So, make sure that if you can check the water frequently, make sure it doesn't freeze. It may help to even put some water in a plastic bucket. Plastic is a little bit safer, doesn't freeze as quickly as, as the metal. In addition, if you have metal and water is inside the metal and your pet licks the metal, sometimes their tongue will get stuck to the metal. So you don't want to do that. Putting water in plastic may be better during this time.
Oh yes, we've all seen those pictures of that, bowl frozen with water for the pet.
Yes.
And then what about wildlife like baby squirrels? Do we need to kind of look out for them too?
Yes, that could happen. And, in storms, sometimes baby squirrels will fall out of the nest, get separated from their family. If you come up on an abandoned squirrel or one that looks sick or ill or injured, and you're trying to get the baby warm, what you can do is get a box, just like a cardboard box, and put some towels and blankets in there. You can dry the baby off. It may help to put a heating pad under just one side of the box. And that's because, again, you don't want to heat the box too much. So you don't want the entire box covered with a heating pad. Maybe a little section can have a heating pad, and then you want a side that the squirrel can sort of get away from that heat if they need to. But certainly bring the squirrel in, try to warm the squirrel up, and then contact us, contact the Wildlife Center of Texas. Get the baby squirrel, to licensed rehabilitators as soon as possible, because they're going to know the best way to get that squirrel back to health. There are sort of protocols that we should follow regarding feeding. And so it's best to get those animals, those wildlife, to a licensed rehabilitator.
All right. The number one question we're getting is, we see our neighbor's dog. They're still outside. We don't think they have good shelter. What can we do to help them?
Okay. So let's say you see a dog outside and the pet needs some help. Please consider calling us here at the Houston SPCA. We have a team of investigators who go out, and it's their duty, it's their mission to help protect animals and free them from suffering and abuse. And so they will certainly go out, they will examine the environment, try to determine whether or not the pet has adequate food, water, and shelter, and they will take action if they need to get that pet into safety. So please give us a call. You can call 713-869-7722. You can also go on our website at houstonspca.org, and you can make a report. You can make it an animal cruelty report. With that report, please provide as much information as you can about the current pet's condition. Where is the pet? What are the circumstances? Is there food? Is there water? Is there shelter? Is the pet tethered or loose? All of that information is important. If you need to take photos, those would be very helpful too. Take photos of whatever you're concerned about. When you go online and make the report, you can upload and attach those photos to the report. That way, our cruelty investigators will kind of get a great idea right away about how serious the condition is, how quickly they need to act, and it'll make the process much more efficient. So don't hesitate. If you see a pet in need, please call us at the Houston SPCA. Don't hesitate. Time is of the essence when we're dealing with extreme temperatures like we're going to be this weekend.
And then one more time, like a simple reminder, if our pets aren't used to being outside, they're never inside, what can we do to help them accommodate, us and them inside if that's not something they're used to?
Yes. If you are you wondering how to accommodate the pets indoors?
Yeah. So should we put them in a crate or in a laundry room
yes,
for those, next 2 days?
Oh, yes. If you have a pet maybe that is not used to being inside, yes, make a comfortable place for them. Again, it could be your garage, maybe a laundry room. You can separate a little place of your living room, give them a nice comfortable bed, food, water, maybe even a toy. And I think as long as your pets are with you and they feel comforted by you, and they feel your security, then they're probably going to do just fine inside. They may be a little bit nervous, but as long as you're with them and you give them a comfortable space, most pets will take to indoors quite well. Give them some nice treats, and it should be fine.
At least for the next few days, that's all we need.
Absolutely, for the next few days. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please take care during these freezing temperatures coming up. Protect yourselves, protect your pets, and happy holidays. Merry Christmas. We'll see you next week.